Chapter 471, Annihilation. Tang Wuling hissed. His body shuddered without end, limbs tense and joints locked, teeth chattering. Chaos. His blood essence thrashed in chaos. A searing heat engulfed his mind, and if he were any less in pain, any more lucid, he would have wondered if it was actually set ablaze. The phosphor soul refinement was undoubtedly one of the world's most vile torture methods. He screamed, the pain sharp and unforgiving, all-encompassing. He screamed, begging for it to end. At the sound of Tang Wuling's miserable cries, the ashen-robed man broke into a grin full of sharp teeth. The greater his victim's spiritual power, the greater their spirit's resentment after refinement, and the larger his revitalization. Tang Wuling couldn't bear it. He lost consciousness as the green flame encroached on his spiritual world, but just as he was about to succumb to it, his forehead shone with a mysterious golden mark, the light bright enough to coax tears. In a flash, his spiritual world was rid of the flame. When the man laid eyes on the golden mark, his eyes dyed the same gold, superego and ego snapping momentarily. Then he let out a miserable shriek, retracting his bone spikes from Tang Wuling and retreating as if he had just encountered a monster. Tang Wuling's blood sprayed from his open wounds, but he didn't collapse. He stood there, motionlessly, his eyes still shut. You bastard. What was that? What the hell did you do to my fire? The man howled. The phosphor fire was the source of power for his martial soul. Every bit of it added to his strength. He had spent decades torturing and refining people's souls to increase the hungry flames, to coax them brighter and brighter. But to his shock, a temper that had just disappeared. I'll kill you. The man soared into the air. The bone spikes on his finger transformed into large claws, and he slashed down at Tang Wuling. Suddenly, Tang Wuling's eyes shot open. A wave of dizziness struck the man when he looked into Tang Wuling's eyes, his movements slowing to a crawl. Those eyes. What are they? No longer their original obsidian. Tang Wuling's eyes had bled into a brilliant gold. A tinge of blue danced at the outer perimeter. Gone was youthful innocence. In its place an aura of omniscience. His body jerked, tilting backward until it was almost parallel to the ground, and then it bounced back like a coiled spring. His limbs twitched, his muscles spasmed, the crackle of joints echoing throughout the carriage. He brought his right hand over the gaping holes in his chest, waved it once. The wounds hissed and sewed themselves back together, the leaking of blood obstructed in the process. Then the golden mark appeared on his forehead again. This time, the man recognized the mark for what it was and felt his soul power freeze. A golden three-pronged trident. The person before him was not the brave young boy who had dashed headfirst into danger for the ones he loved. No, this was someone different, someone else entirely. He raised his right hand, but didn't bring out his dragon claw. Instead, golden light converged within his palm, manifesting as 3-meter-long double-headed spear. Tang Wuling's figure flickered, reappearing right in front of the man's nose, his spear in a thrust. The man howled. His prey had become the predator. His instinct screamed doom as the spear closed in. He urged his body to the side, desperate to avoid the impending stab. But no matter how much he yelled at his body, it refused to move. The spear impaled him. What? But he was just over there a second ago. The man groaned, disbelief in his eyes at the spear protruding from his chest. His soul power would not circulate despite his desperate attempts. Then a chilling cold seeped into his body, the spear greedily sapping his soul power and life force away, out from his body and into Tang Wuling. The ashen-robed man shuddered. He could feel himself rapidly aging, skin sagging and bones thinning by the second. What's happening to me? How is he taking my life force? Not only was he a soul emperor who had slayed soul sages in the past, he was also a one-word battle armor master. He was utterly shocked to be powerless before Tang Wuling's spear. Those with the least regard for life feared death the most, and this man was no exception. Organs failing, body shriveling up, and life force flowing away. He could only stay still and watch as the spear grew brighter and brighter until it was a dazzling gold. He let out a silent scream at the thought of his inevitable, impending death. He screwed his eyes tight. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself surrounded in suffocating green. Mournful wails filled the air, countless flaming green wraiths in tow. They flocked to him, embraced him. They swallowed him whole in their flames. Evil leads to destruction. Tang Wuling said in a faint but clear voice, far from his usual brand of boyish determination. He touched his face with his left hand, feeling the features, then smiled warmly. He let out a sigh. Tang Wuling lifted his spear with the man still dangling from its end, flicked it to rid the spear of the shriveled up husk of a body. A second sigh slipped from his lips. The spear disintegrated into specks of light. They flowed back into his hand, disappearing among his skin. He lowered himself to the ground and lay still as the golden mark on his forehead dimmed and vanished. A minute later, a red glow spread through the skies, but it disappeared as quick as it had come. In its wake, a person clad in scarlet armor descended to Tang Wuling's side. The armor had flames engraved onto it, each and every one unique, each and every one a powerful circuit core. The flames were numerous, as if intent on devouring the world. A scarlet visor obscured the user's identity. Large bat-like wings sprouted from the person's back, enabling flight, and with a single flap of the wings the flames flared to life. There's someone over there, someone shouted from a distance. A whistle pierced the air. Moments later, the silhouettes of a dozen mechas approached, most of them sporting purple models. They were led by a single black mecha with 3 pairs of wings, flames spewing from its propulsion jets. As the black mecha neared the person in the scarlet armor, it unfurled all 6 of its wings. It slowed to a halt 100 meters away. Hello, Your Eminence. I am Captain Luan of Heaven Dou City's 1st Mecha Regiment. His voice rang loud from the speakers. May I ask you to identify yourself? Chapter 472. Forward Battle Armor Master. The flames dancing around the scarlet armor receded, and the armor dissolved into specks of light, layer by layer, disappearing into the body it had surrounded. I'm Zhenhu of the Blacksmiths Association. I had received a request for help from my nephew disciple and came to save him. No traces of hostiles were spotted when I arrived. His voice carried the authority of a titled Douluo and a forward battle armor master. Since there only existed a handful of red mechas, black mechas often stood in as the top of the hierarchy. But Luan, the pilot of the black mecha, had stopped and respectfully greeted Zhenhua. It wasn't for nothing. No, it was because he could sense that the difference in strength between them was not gap but a chasm, simply insurmountable, untouchable. After verifying Zhenhua's identity, Luan relaxed and let out a deep breath. If Zhenhua had been hostile, then this place would have been his grave. My respects, Lord Zhenhua. Please forgive me for not exiting my mecha to properly greet you. I am unable to at this moment due to my mission, Luan said, his tone far more humble than before. The man before him was the continent's only divine blacksmith after all. There was no one on the continent of Douluo who dared offend a person of such status. In addition to battle armor, mechas also used metals forged by blacksmiths during the manufacturing process. Furthermore, the higher grade the mecha, the better the metal needed. Even among black grade mechas, apart from their circuit cores, it was the quality of their metals that determined superiority. Luan's own black mecha was made of 1,000 refined metal and a core of spirit refined metal. In order to upgrade his mecha, he would need to replace its parts with ones made of higher quality metals. Only then could the mecha advance to red grade. Therefore, Luan treated the divine blacksmith with the utmost respect. Zhenhua landed on the ground with a soft thud and a curt nod. He picked up Tang Wuling's unconscious body, inspected his condition. His face clouded over when he saw the bloodstains blossoming on Tang Wuling's chest. No, I can't let a genius as great as him fall. He's a gift to us blacksmiths. He clenched his jaw. And how would I even explain to Mu Chen if he becomes crippled? During his rush to the ninth carriage, Tang Wuling had called Zhenhua for help since Heaven Dou City was closer to the train than Shrek City. Although Zhenhua had dropped everything to rush to the scene, the trip still took him over 10 minutes. And when he arrived, the battle was already over. Zhenhua pressed a finger to the smooth skin of Tang Wuling's inner wrist, feeling for a pulse. His eyes lit up. He's alive. He quickly poured his soul power into Tang Wuling's body. Sure enough, Tang Wuling's heart still beat, but it was weak. A soft fluttering of butterfly wings against the thick of his chest. Even so, he had a chance to live. I'm bringing this kid back with me to Heaven Dou's Blacksmiths Association first. Investigate the crime scene and look for the tracks of any hostiles. When the kid recovers, I'll have him cooperate with your investigation. Without another word, Zhenhua soared into the air, Tang Wuling cradled securely in his arms, and they disappeared in a streak of scarlet. There was nothing Luan could have done to stop Zhenhua. Hell would freeze over before he purposefully spiked the ire of a titled Douluo and a forward battle armor master. Also holding the title of a divine blacksmith, he sat at the top of the list of people who couldn't be offended on the continent. Luan gave the order to his regiment to search the surroundings, but in the end, they never found any trace of hostiles. Not even a single hair to go on. The only evidence of the tragedy, besides the blood and the corpses and destruction, was a small mound of ashes tinged green. The rest of the terrorist remains had already been blown away by the wind. Tang Wuling sat adrift in the sea on a small boat. The waves ushered the boat around, up and down, up and down. He held back the urge to empty the contents of his stomach. Pain drilled into every inch of his body. This must be the limbo between life and death. He couldn't imagine any other outcome but death after being subjected to the phosphor soul refinement. The boat gradually steadied, the waves dying down, the pain subsided and a comforting warmth filled him. A while later, the warmth disappeared and his mind turned awake. He opened his eyes. Spotless white, spanning above him and marred only by the thin ridges differentiating each ceiling tile. I'm not dead. Tang Wuling stared into space, motionless. Minutes later, he finally snapped out of his reverie and jerked into a sitting position. A groan ripped through his throat, past gritted teeth. His body felt sore, the muscles heavy and tight like a coiled spring, and his chest felt on fire. The pain brought him back to his senses. I'm alive. He heaved a sigh of relief. But how am I not dead? He scanned the room. There was nothing of note besides the lack of clutter and dust. He couldn't imagine this being a room for a prisoner. There was no way the evil soul master would treat him this well either. That man was the vilest of the vile, capable of committing unspeakable acts without batting an eye. Tang Wuling sent his senses inward, examining the state of his body. To his surprise, he was completely fine. Aside from the slightly damaged meridian channels in his chest, he couldn't find anything wrong. All of his energies were normal, indistinguishable from before. But what truly astonished him was that his spiritual power had grown significantly. It was to the point that he could now sense the smallest of changes within all his meridian channels. The sensation left him in a state of awe. He knew what this meant. He had broken into the spirit sea realm. This was a major milestone. His cultivation wouldn't be restricted by his spiritual power until he hit 7 rings, and that was if it didn't grow any further by then. Furthermore, he could theoretically fuse with 3 purple spirit souls, enough to provide 9 rings. The path to becoming a titled Douluo was now open. The requirements for admission into Shrek academies in a court were as followed. Status as a one-word battle armor master, possession of 5 soul rings, and achieving the spirit sea realm. Achieving 5 soul rings was the easy part. Tang Wuling may still be far off, but he had 6 years. He could easily reach that level and possibly exceed it in that time frame by absorbing the power of the Golden Dragon King. Having reached the spirit sea realm, his only real obstacle was becoming a one-word battle armor master. Furthermore, his gauntlet made of spirit alloy pushed him a step ahead. Tang Wuling grinned. He was well on his way to becoming an inner court student. After a few cycles of the mysterious heaven method, Tang Wuling's mind cleared the lingering traces of his sleepy haze. His memory rang free of obstruction. The pallor of Molan's face. During her abuse of ghost haunting his psyche, he had survived the phosphor soul refinement, but he couldn't assume the same for her. He needed to find her to know. For closure. He couldn't forgive himself if he didn't. Tang Wuling jumped off his bed and changed into a set of clean clothes from his storage ring. The second he finished changing, the door opened and a man entered. Uncle Master. Tang Wuling exclaimed. You can stand already. Zhenhua's voice was thick with concern. The image of Tang Wuling's steel and bloody body was vividly emblazoned in his mind. Zhenhua had gotten a first-rate soul master medic to heal Tang Wuling as soon as they returned to Heaven Dou City. While Tang Wuling's heart hadn't been damaged, his other internal organs had not been as lucky. But to the medic's astonishment, there was minimal blood loss and his body was on the road to recovery. What should have been serious, unsightly wounds had already healed. The medic had concluded that Tang Wuling would recover naturally given enough time and recommended against doing anything special to hasten the process. The best way to avoid any adverse effects was simply disinfecting the wounds, bandaging them, and making sure his body was well nourished. Yet the surprise didn't end there. A mere 2 days later, Tang Wuling was already well enough to leave his bed. Zhenhua could hardly believe his eyes. This kid's body is way too tough. Chapter 473. Statement. Are you sure you're fine? You don't have to force yourself. Concern coded Zhenhua's voice. Tang Wuling flashed a smile. Yes, Uncle Master, thanks for rescuing me. Zhenhua shook his head. There was no trace of any hostiles when I arrived. You can't exactly say I'm the one who saved you, but really, your body's recovery speed is amazing. Without any help, you healed so quickly. How about I take you for another examination? I'm fine, Tang Wuling said, shrugging. I already inspected myself. There's just some minor clogging in my meridian channels from the wounds. They'll unblock themselves in a few days. Everything else is under control. He frowned, clearing his throat. Uncle Master, what happened to the conductor? She was attacked too. Zhenhua knitted his brows, sinking deeper within his sea of thoughts until only his head stayed unsubmerged. If I remember correctly, she isn't doing too well. I heard she was sent into emergency care, but her brain. He sighed. Her brain's pretty damaged, and so is her spirit. I'm sorry, Wuling, but they don't know when she'll wake. Tang Wuling felt as if he were plunged in freezing water, sinking deeper and deeper, the light at the top shrinking into silent darkness. The air surrounding him condensed, thick and viscous and hard to contain in his lungs. He had guessed it. He had guessed this outcome but had turned his cheek in the face of reality, and was now suffering the stinging slap. His hands, cold and damp, curled into fists at his side. How could this happen to Big Sis Molan? Uncle Master. He broke the silence after what seemed like hours. Can you bring me to see her? Big Sis Molan is a good person. She did all she could to protect the passengers both this time and the last. She didn't hesitate to sacrifice herself for their lives. Tang Wuling's voice grew frantic, uncontrolled. She's a saint. Please, can't you help her? I must escort you to give a report on what happened first. The only eyewitnesses of the whole ordeal are you and that train conductor, since you're the only one in any condition to talk. Zhenhua frowned, not sure how to frame his words. Anyway, you'll give your statement first, then we can go visit her. All right. Okay, with that settled, Zhenhua led Tang Wuling out of the Blacksmiths Association, and the two boarded a car to the city's administrative offices. The Blacksmiths Association had a good relationship with the city administration. Captain Luan of the 1st Mega Regiment was specially sent to receive them. Hello, Your Eminence, Luan said as he opened the car door for Zhenhua. Zhenhua and Tang Wuling got off the car. The sight of Tang Wuling startled Luan. He clearly recalled how severe Tang Wuling's state was a few days ago. He could hardly believe how quickly Tang Wuling recovered. Let's go. We can talk inside. Famous as he was, Zhenhua was in a hurry to get out of the public eye. Your Eminence, this way please. Their footsteps echoed upon the pavement. I have already informed Administrator Mo of your arrival, Luan said as he walked. He's currently in a meeting, but he will come meet you as soon as it concludes. Even without a government position, Zhenhua was one of the most influential people on the continent. That Mo who stayed in the meeting rather than receive Zhenhua personally spoke volumes of its importance. It's fine. I don't want to trouble him. I've brought Tang Wuling to give his statement. Perhaps he can provide assistance in catching the criminal. Zhenhua smiled kindly. He was sure there wouldn't be any problems. He had questioned Tang Wuling himself during the ride here, and was satisfied with how Tang Wuling handled everything. Please wait a moment then. I'll take his statement right away, Luan said courteously, wasting no time in escorting them to a private room. A black-grade mecha pilot might have high status, but he was nothing compared to Zhenhua. He couldn't afford to waste such a man's time. Please state your full name, age, and what school you attend. Tang Wuling. 14 years old. Shrek Academy's 1st grade, Tang Wuling answered. Luan raised a brow. No wonder the divine blacksmith values him so much. He's a Shrek student. Knowing this, he instantly eliminated any possibility of Tang Wuling's involvement in the act of terrorism. There was no need to question the morals of a Shrek Academy student. Please tell me what happened that day. Tang Wuling did. From the moment he boarded the train to the point when he lost consciousness, he left nothing out. Luan gasped. So you're the young hero who saved all those passengers during the last terrorist attack? Respect welled in Luan's heart for this brave boy. Although he had known more than most about the true hero of the last terrorist attack, namely that they came from Shrek Academy, and that said academy kept the student's identity secret, he didn't expect to come across the hero so soon. Yet here he was, in the flesh. Tang Wuling could make out muffled voices from the other side of the door before it swung open, revealing Mo Wu. His expression was dark, eyes bloodshot and clothes flaunting 50 shades of disarray. Lord Zhenhua, Mo Wu said, bowing slightly. No need to be so formal, Administrator. I'm just here with this junior of mine to help with the investigation. Mo Wu's brave expression refused to budge. I have to take responsibility for this incident. It happened in my jurisdiction. Nobody can blame you for what happened. Those evil soul masters are too cunning. It won't be easy to catch one. You're all doing your best anyway. Luan approached Mo Wu. Administrator, I'm nearly done taking his statement. This boy and the hero of the last attack are one and the same. He just happened to get involved in this incident as well. Mo Wu's eyes were bright as he studied Tang Wuling. You're Tang Wuling? The young hero who saved Mo Lan? Hello, Administrator. I'm not really a hero. I'm just Tang Wuling. Finally, the cold exterior of Mo Wu's expression melted away. I want to thank you on behalf of Heaven Dou City. If it weren't for you, the previous tragedy would have been far worse. I reviewed the reports and accounts of the recent incident as well. The other carriages were cut from the ninth carriage, saving many lives. Were you the one responsible for that? Tang Wuling nodded. Once again, thank you for your bravery. Mo Wu managed a faint smile. Luan handed his written record of Tang Wuling's statement to Mo Wu. After skimming through a few pages, Mo Wu frowned. Phosphify soul refinement. Yes, Tang Wuling said. That's what the terrorist called it. Administrator, is Big Sis Mo Lan all right? She's not in danger, is she? His voice came out in near whimper. Tears formed at the corner of Mo Wu's eyes, threatening to fall. He did his best to hold back from breaking down. Thank you for your concern. To tell you the truth, I'm her father. You don't have to be so formal with me. Just call me uncle. He sighed. You've saved her life twice already. She'd be dead if it weren't for you. Tang Wuling's eyes went wide. He had found the administrator to look somewhat familiar, unsure of where to place his face. To hear that he was Mo Lan's father was unexpected, but at the same time, given a better opportunity to examine the man, Tang Wuling was able to pick up the striking resemblance between them. So where's Big Sis Mo Lan? The phosphify soul refinement had been pain incarnate. Tang Wuling couldn't help but worry for Mo Lan. Couldn't hope for an ordinary person like her to be as resilient as him. Soul Master. Chapter 474. Coma. She's in the hospital. Critical care unit. Mo Wu rubbed at the bridge of his nose. Is she? I heard she's in a coma, prompted Tang Wuling, hoping it wasn't true. Mo Wu's face contorted in grief. His entire body sagged, the weight of the world upon his shoulders. The medics managed to preserve her life, but we don't know when she'll wake up. The familiar sensation of drowning was back, yet Tang Wuling pushed it to the far recesses of his mind. This was no time to lose himself to sorrow, but he couldn't ignore the fact that the brain was an extremely complicated and weak organ. Unlike soul masters, ordinary people did not have the luxury of spiritual power to protect their brains. It would take a miracle for Mo Lan's brain to recover completely from the abuse it had sustained. The doctors and soul master medics can't do anything. Tang Wuling asked, grasping for any straws. Mo Wu heaved a sigh. They've tried everything. Nothing worked. It's just too difficult to restore someone's mind. The best they can do for now is preserve her life. Tang Wuling turned to Zhenhua. Uncle Master, is there anything you can do? Mo Wu's eyes lit up. As a divine blacksmith, he might know a soul master powerful enough to heal Mo Lan. After a moment of thought, Zhenhua said, I can't let a hero's sacrifice go unrewarded. Administrator Mo, I will do my best to help her. Let me make a few calls. I'll be back in a moment. Mo Wu laughed, deep and hoarse, and with one look it was certain he had brightened, shrugging off the grey that had coloured his being. While he had put up a brave front as an administrator of Heaven Dou City, Mo Lan was still his daughter. His life would lose all meaning without her. Zhenhua's help rekindled the dying embers of his hope. He clung to it. If Zhenhua's contact still could not save her, then that would be the moment he despaired. A few minutes later, Zhenhua returned. He said to Mo Wu, I asked a titled Douluo healer to come treat your daughter. Let's hope for the best. Mo Wu rejoiced, bowing his head again and again as he thanked Zhenhua. In terms of cultivation difficulty, food and healing types ranked the highest among soul masters. A healing type titled Douluo was as rare as a unicorn. The best healing type Heaven Dou City had to offer was a soul sage. That was a difference of 2 whole soul rings. With a titled Douluo treating her, the chances of Mo Lan's recovery were high. But if a titled Douluo failed, then Mo Lan's fate was sealed. Even so, Mo Wu couldn't help but desperately cling to this thread of hope. There's no need to thank me, Zhenhua said. I just happened to be here and have the ability to help, so I did. The titled Douluo should be here in about an hour. Get ready to receive her. Uncle Mo Wu, can you take me to see Big Sis Mo Lan? Tang Wuling asked. Mo Wu nodded, his eyes still red with tears. He glanced at Zhenhua, wondering what the man's plans were. I haven't seen my friend in a long time. I'll come with you and wait for her arrival. I don't have any plans today anyway. He had to see things through the end. Mo Wu couldn't express how grateful he was to Zhenhua. As a divine blacksmith, Zhenhua was undoubtedly one of the busiest people in the world. There was no way he hadn't had any plans for the day. Mo Wu called for a car to take them to the Heaven Dou hospital a few blocks away. This was where Mo Lan was being treated. Careful to not cause a disturbance, he brought his guests in through the VIP entrance, then led them straight to the critical care ward. Due to Mo Lan's condition, they weren't allowed into her room. They could only watch her through the thin glass wall. Tang Wuling's vision blurred as he took in the side of Mo Lan. He could barely recognize her. Her head was swollen and her features deformed. Layers of gauze covering the worst of the worst. Tubes and wires ran through her, hooked up to a monitor, sustaining her life. Big Sis Mo Lan. Tang Wuling couldn't hold it back any longer. The tears flowed, down, down. His shoulders shook as much as his hands. The last memory he had of her, not the red and still body crumpled on the cold ground or the white of her face as the life flashed dimly in her eyes, but the real Mo Lan, full and healthy, was when she had brought him to the private room. She had hugged him as she shed her own tears, those of joy and thanks and not the bitter taste of sorrow of his own. He closed his eyes, opened them again. She still lay there, silent, hooked up to 100 different things, life hanging on by a single thread. A quick glance at Mo Lan, and Mo Wu had retreated to a corner, one hand covering his face and the other pounding the wall like a defeated drum. Zhenhua's expression hardened at the sight. Tang Wuling clenched his fists tight, his head lowered as tears trailed down his face. He hated how weak he was, how he failed to protect Mo Lan, and most of all, he hated how vicious that evil soul master had been. You damn scum of the earth, never again. I'll become strong and protect everyone I love. You won't get to hurt someone like you did to Big Sis Mo Lan. I swear on it. Why you cry? Someone asked in a childish voice. Tang Wuling widened his eyes. A toddler stood close by, a little over 3 years old. He tugged at his pants and looked up at Tang Wuling with large, innocent eyes. Tang Wuling was taken aback. He crouched down and looked at the boy at eye level. Big brother is a bit sad right now, so I'm crying. What's your name? Where's your mum and dad? The boy blinked a few times. Mummy sleep. I wait. He seemed to deflate upon saying those words. Tang Wuling trembled, legs giving in beneath him. He's Big Sis Mo Lan's son. He sniffed. He rubbed furiously at the tears that seemed to overflow in the face of this child's innocence. Nodding once, he opened his arms wide. The little boy seemed to take the hint, edging closer to him, until their feet brushed. Tang Wuling threw his arms around the small boy, hugging him tightly, as if he were afraid any looser an embrace and the boy would disappear. He choked back sobs, saying, Your mum is just tired. She'll be better in no time. She just needs to sleep some more. The boy didn't resist Tang Wuling's hug. I want mommy. Tang Wuling's heart sank. He decided to pick the boy up, but just as he was about to stand, he felt a hand on his shoulder. Don't pick him up, someone said with a hoarse voice. Tang Wuling turned to see a handsome man in his late 20s. This man was doing his best to hold back his tears. He gave Tang Wuling a curt nod. Don't let my baby see his mum like that. Realization hit Tang Wuling like a speeding bullet. With how small the boy was, he couldn't see Mo Lan through the glass. Tang Wuling's heart felt like it was being wrung out. He's just a child but his mom's already. Releasing his hold on the toddler, Tang Wuling stood up. Mister, it's all my fault. I wasn't able to save Big Sis Mo Lan. The man sighed, shaking his head. Don't blame yourself. If it weren't for you, last time she would already have been. She would never listen to me. She always said that if everyone hid because they were afraid, the Federation would go down in chaos. She always put others before herself. He broke down in tears. The boy looked up at Tang Wuling, then at his father, and began crying as well. His father quickly crouched and hugged his son, patting the small head. Don't cry, baby. Everything is fine. It's all fine. Tang Wuling stood there in shock. Ever since he was young, he wanted to become strong so he could be like one of the heroes of legends. Later he wanted strength to find his missing family, but now, he wanted strength to protect those he cherished and bring justice to the world. If he had strength, he could have prevented this tragedy, but there was nothing he could do now. He was powerless to help Mo Lan as she lay there, her fate uncertain. All that was left was to pray. This sense of powerlessness pained him. I have to work harder. The hopelessness of the situation twisted into something else. A fire rekindling his resolve. He would never let something like this happen again. Never. Chapter 475, The Angel of Hope. In the end, Molan's husband had led their young son out of the critical care unit. Reining in his emotions had been a hard task in that cold, clinical wing, yet he also could not for the life of him keep away from it. He had specially rented a suite near the hospital to that end, hired a nanny to help look after his son. If it weren't for his son's constant cries, he never would have brought him to the ward to begin with. Noticing his nephew disciple's distress, Zhenhua approached Tang Wulin's side and patted him on the shoulder. Tang Wulin glanced up, despair in his eyes. Uncle Master, why must so many people do evil upon others? Releasing a long sigh, Zhenhua said, there's no real reason. When there's good, there must be bad. Two sides of the same coin. He frowned. There's no use in praying for justice. Work hard and gain the strength to protect those dear to you with your own hands. A cloud settled upon Tang Wulin's face. I'm still too weak. I couldn't protect Big Sis Molan. Zhenhua pressed his lips into a thin smile. Foolish child. You've already done all that can be expected of you at your age. In fact, you've exceeded all expectations. Do you know how scared I was when I found you completely soaked in blood? Just remember, no matter what, your safety comes first. If you die, that'll be the end of everything. Yes. Zhenhua grinned. I'm telling you this for your sake. I want to see you thrive. Your master's got a really good disciple. I'm really envious. His words of praise were shocking, but they came from the bottom of his heart. It was rare for him to evaluate someone so highly. Tang Wulin was an unprecedented blacksmithing prodigy with the unyielding will, dedication, and passion needed for success. But what made him truly shine was his character. He had the courage to sacrifice himself for others. Noticing this trait about Tang Wulin, Zhenhua couldn't help but put aside his competitive streak against Mu Chen and come to love Tang Wulin like a son. It was unthinkable for a 14-year-old boy to accomplish such heroic feats. He was a fearless newborn calf, turning heads with the unadulterated good of his actions. When Zhenhua had rescued Tang Wulin, he had resolved himself to raise Tang Wulin to greatness. Even if Tang Wulin wasn't his disciple, Tang Wulin was still a member of the Blacksmiths Association. As a divine blacksmith, it was his responsibility to nurture such a talented boy. An hour soon passed. Light footsteps approached from the hall. Zhenhua looked up when the door opened. A woman entered with brisk steps, and before he could take another breath, she stood before him, anxiously waiting the whole hour. Tang Wulin tilted his head upward to see the identity of the mysterious woman. To his astonishment, it was someone he recognized, Holy Spirit Douluo Yali. Yali acknowledged Zhenhua with a nod, then turned to Tang Wulin with a warm smile. So it was you again. I heard about what you did last time too. You've done well. You bring honor to Shrek Academy. She placed a hand on Tang Wulin's head, rubbed it, and poured a warmth into him, dispelling the dark energies whispering in his core. A sense of ease settled in his heart. Mo Wu quickly walked over and bowed in respect. He didn't recognize Yali, but her high status was obvious by her interactions with Zhenhua. Hello. I am Mo Wu, Molan's father. He refrained from mentioning his position as an administrator because at this moment in time, before anything else, he was a father worried about his daughter. Yali peered through the glass, her gaze settling on Molan's pale and still body. Her brows knitted, a frown sliding across her lips. All right. I'm going to examine her. The doctors and nurses Mo Wu had called in preparation for Yali's arrival offered her a set of sterile garments. She rejected them, and with a wave of her hand, sterilized her entire body with a flash of light. She proceeded to enter the room, passing through two sets of doors before she reached Molan's sickbed. Tang Wulin anxiously watched from behind the glass. Mo Wu did the same. Although Mo Wu didn't know who she was, he had no doubts in her ability. Yali caressed Molan's shaven head gently, fingers feeling for every bump and dent. She examined her patient. Her eyes held compassion as she took in the immense swelling. 9 soul rings appeared around her, 7 black and 2 red. Besides Zhenhua, everyone else around was astonished by the sight. Tang Wulin had seen the soul rings of Chuoshi and Feng Wuyu before, but neither had rings as impressive as Yali's. Her soul ring composition was only possible with 2 10,000-year spirit souls and a 100,000-year spirit soul. In this current era, few, if any, soul master could top that. Longing flickered in Tang Wulin's heart. When will I reach that level? I have to become as strong as her. Not even Elder Kai or Grand Teacher can compare with the Holy Spirit Douluo. Meanwhile, Mo Wu stared with his mouth wide open. The Holy Spirit Douluo? Voice weak and barely audible. Lord Zhenhua, is that her? As a politician of the Federation, he naturally had basic knowledge of all the known titled Douluos, and the only healing type soul master known to reach the titled Douluo level was the Holy Spirit Douluo. She had a unique healing type martial soul, the Angel of Hope. It was exceptionally hard to cultivate. As the realization dawned on him, his heartbeat quickened, a joyful staccato for the impending tune. With the Holy Spirit Douluo treating his daughter, there was no need to worry. Molan would wake up. He couldn't begin to express his gratitude. The Holy Spirit Douluo's legend was far from publicized. She had never been one to chase fame. However, all the higher-ups of the Federation were privy to her existence. Yali's heart had always been kind, an ocean deep with empathy. Although she had been born in the slums, when she became a soul master and obtained the opportunity to leave, she chose to stay. She chose to help those that society had turned its back on. By doing so, Yali unknowingly cultivated the Angel of Hope, the energy from patience faith, a prime factor for her martial soul's growth. Before she knew it, she had stepped forward into the realm of Soul King. Of course, her cultivation did not stop there. About 50 years ago, when she was still a 7-ring soul sage, an epidemic spread across the continent, ruthless in its approach. Millions gone, some without the luxury of a marked grave. Yali would not have it. In the span of 15 days, she traveled through all 14 provinces of the continent, bringing only herself and the clothes on her back. Not a single person was turned away from her treatment. Over that period, she continuously drew on her faith, energy, and life force to push on. It slashed 50 years from her lifespan, drove her onto her deathbed at the very end of it, and she was delivered back to Shrek Academy comatose. But her sacrifice had been worth it. From the next day onward, those plagued by the disease showed signs of recovery. The energy of their faith trickled into Yali at first, gradually transforming into rushing river. 1 year later, she awakened, a soul sage into a titled Douluo, the quickest in history. Chapter 476, The Idol of Douluo. Despite treating countless people, Yali kept her name secret. Her patient simply called her the Angel of Hope. The mere mention of that name sent waves throughout Douluo. The Federation had offered her a high-ranking office for her deeds, but she rejected it, asking for her identity to be kept under wraps. She wished to save people, pure and simple. She had no desire for fame. Soon after, Yali went into seclusion in Shrek Academy, only coming out whenever a disaster occurred. Innumerable were tales of men besotted with her. They waxed rhapsodic about her kind heart, her charming looks, the greatest in both categories on the continent. Her goodness was contagious, spreading to every person she encountered, changing them into better people. They couldn't help but adore her, love her. Those in powerful positions throughout the continent had been drawn to her, all vying for her affection. She became the idol of Douluo. Such an eligible bachelorette was bound to garner suitors. One day, a man declared to the world that he would take her as his bride. He was resolute in this, unyielding. He challenged his rivals and loved to face him in a duel. When the time came, he single-handedly defeated 16 other titled Douluos, 3 of which were 3-word battle armor masters and the rest 2-word. After every victory, he told his opponent with heartfelt sincerity to be at ease. He would protect Yali with his life. 10 years later, the man stood at the peak of the world, the greatest of his generation. He and Yali had wed and were proclaimed as a couple fated by the heavens. Wherever Yali went, he would follow. The realization of his love had changed him. He turned his back on worldly affairs, his wife the only thing that mattered to him. The perfect gentleman. He did his best to support her in her endeavors. This story was well known among the upper echelons of society. Mo Wu couldn't help but tremble as he recalled it. He had just met a legendary figure. He studied her once more. Time was kind to the Holy Spirit Douluo. She had the appearance of an attractive woman in her 20s, when in reality, she was well over 80 years old. In fact, 100 might not be pushing it. Mo Wu remained silent watching Yali through the glass, heartbeat relaxing at the sight of the Holy Spirit Douluo caressing his daughter's head. Light bloomed around Yali, soft and pure. A small angel appeared out of her back. It had 3 pairs of wings and curled up into a ball upon landing on Molan's body. A second later, it dissolved into wisps of golden light and entered through Molan's nose. Yali waved her hands, commanding streams of golden light to enter Molan. Some, rather than enter her, wrapped around her tightly, cradling her in a cocoon of light. It floated a few inches in the air, growing brighter, thickening, too blinding for anyone to view within. Still, Mo Wu held complete faith in Yali. According to legend, the Holy Spirit Douluo could save someone's life as long as they had a single breath left to breathe. The golden light slowly receded until it was but a dim glow. At that moment, Mo Lan's husband returned. In a few quick strides he was right before Mo Wu. After a brief explanation from his father-in-law, his face brightened with joy. In the moments that had passed since Yali started her work, those on the other side of the glass could vaguely make out Mo Lan's state making remarkable progress. The swelling of her head rapidly receded. A dark green gas was expelled from her eyes, ears, nostrils, and mouth, immediately swallowed by the surrounding golden light. Not a trace of it remained. Shudders ran through Mo Lan's body, her brows knitting together and eyes closing tight. 10 minutes later, her head showed no signs of swelling. Expected results of the Holy Spirit Douluo, the most powerful healer in the world. Another 10 minutes later, the golden light faded away and the little angel slipped out of Mo Lan's body, returning to Yali. She gently pressed her index finger on Mo Lan's head. A bit later, black hair sprouted from the top of Mo Lan's head, a hint of color to her cheeks. She no longer appeared to be sitting on death's doorstep. Shock painted the faces of the current medical staff. This was nothing short of a miracle. Without knowledge of Yali's identity or the legend of the Holy Spirit Douluo, they were still able to comprehend something incredible had happened. How amazing she was. Yali's soul rings faded. She left the room, robes swaying behind her. In a blink of an eye, Mo Wu was by her side, tears streaming down his cheeks. Thank you. Thank you, Your Eminence. Yali heaved a long sigh. Don't thank me just yet. She hasn't fully recovered yet. Huh? Yali's words were a bucket of ice water over his head. If even the Holy Spirit Douluo could not guarantee her recovery, then all hope was lost. Her situation was too extreme, Yali said, her lips pressed together in a frown. The brain damage from the phosphofire soul refinement is severe, and unfortunately for her, the most complex part of the human body is the brain. There are numerous regions of the brain, each that control various functions of the body. Not only that, her spirit was damaged. I did manage to treat the damage to her brain and piece back together her spirit, but as I said before, they're complex things. I can't be 100% certain that I didn't miss something, or that she'll be able to make a full recovery. Don't get me wrong, her life is no longer in danger, but the important question now is whether she will wake up. If she does, then she'll be fine. She might lose some of her memories, but that'll be it. She pointed to Mo Lan's slumbering form through the glass. Even though she's unconscious, I want you to talk to her. The sooner she wakes up, the better. You can also move her to a normal room now. Mo Wu and Mo Lan's husband let out a sigh of relief. Before this, the doctors had told them her condition was critical. Not even a 7-ring soulmaster could heal her. They couldn't hope for anything more from Yali. Just her life no longer in danger and her body recovering was good enough, especially since she still had a chance of a full recovery. When she wakes up, call me. I'll come back to help her sort her memories and heal any remaining cracks in her spirit. I want to minimize her memory loss. Yali handed a card to Mo Wu. Thank you. Thank you, Your Eminence. Mo Wu accepted the card and bowed. Although he was a city administrator, he knew that he didn't have the means to pay back Yali's kindness, and that this kindness came with no strings attached. The Holy Spirit Douluo's desire to save others was generous, altruistic, was pure. Yali smiled. Her aura was peaceful and lightened the burdens everyone around her, their fatigue washing away. Zhenhu approached and bent in a curt bow. Your Eminence, you've worked hard, he said, careful to respect her seniority. It was nothing. I will now take my leave. She turned to Tang Wulin, affection in her eyes. Wulin, do you want to go with me? Mo Wu and Mo Lan's husband dropped their jaws. They were not without knowledge of Tang Wulin's enrollment in Shrek Academy, but this, the Holy Spirit Douluo's acknowledgement, this was on a whole new scale. Chapter 477, returning to the academy. Tang Wulin shook his head. I'm fine, Your Eminence. I still have things to do with my uncle master. Oh, I forgot you're a blacksmith, Yali said. She turned to the divine blacksmith. Zhenhua, I'll leave this child in your care. Don't worry. I'll send him back right after his business is done here. Zhenhua was alarmed by Tang Wulin's bad luck as well. In both instances that he came to Heaven Dou City, terrorists attacked his train. An evil soul master nearly killed him the second time. It was a blessing of the heavens that he survived until now. Zhenhua couldn't let such a great blacksmithing prodigy die so early and resolved to personally deliver Tang Wulin back to Shrek Academy afterward. Yali nodded at Zhenhua, then turned around and left. Mo Wu bowed deeply at her retreating figure. He could not treat his daughter's savior with any less respect. Even if she never asked for payment, he would never forget her kindness, or the might of Shrek Academy as well. A doctor walked over. Miss Mo's vitals have returned to normal, so we can move her to an ordinary room now. We heard what the lady said earlier. Please talk to her so she'll wake up earlier. Tang Wulin finally let out a sigh of relief at the doctor's words. Please notify Wulin when she wakes up. Zhenhua said to Mo Wu, gesturing to his nephew disciple. Wulin, you can come visit her when she's better. Okay. Wulin wrote down his number on a scrap piece of paper and gave it to Mo Wu. Wulin, thank you, Mo Wu said, gratitude welling from the depth of his heart. If you need anything in Heaven Dou City in the future, just give me a call. The words were said gently, but they carried the weight of a mountain. After leaving the hospital, Tang Wulin's body relaxed as the tension from the heavy and grim atmosphere in the emergency room drained away. Zhenhua took him back to the Blacksmiths Association. They entered from a back door, taking an elevator straight to Zhenhua's office. Hungry? Starving. Tang Wulin answered, his eyes shining at the thought of eating the food in Zhenhua's personal dining hall. He quickly wiped drool from the corner of his mouth. Zhenhua chuckled. We should celebrate after going through all that. I'll have some food prepared. Right, aren't you on vacation? Stay in Heaven Dou City for 10 days this time. I'll give you pointers on your blacksmithing technique. Your alloy forging fundamentals are good, so I'll help you refine your technique and increase your success rate. Thank you, Uncle Master. I've also prepared the 2 spirit items you asked for. You don't have to pay me back. I'll just take everything you forge in the next 10 days as payment. I'll consider the money you borrowed last time paid off as well. Okay. Tang Wulin knew that Zhenhua was just making excuses so he could personally teach him. The guidance of a divine blacksmith was worth far more than some alloys. In the next 10 days, Tang Wulin dedicated himself to learning from Zhenhua and eating first-rate food. By the 3rd day, thanks to the nourishment of such excellent food, not only did he completely recover, but his blood essence and soul power also grew significantly. The more Zhenhua spent time with Tang Wulin, the more shocked he was. He was startled to discover that Tang Wulin's blacksmithing foundation may be better than even his own. The boy's skill with his heavy silver hammers was superb and his control over the stacked hammers effect masterful. With the badge crafted by Mu Chen supplementing him, his alloy forging success rate had already reached 50%. Such a rate was rare even among 6th-rank blacksmiths. If not for Tang Wulin's low cultivation level, Zhenhua would have moved right on to spirit refining. Even so, Zhenhua still considered Tang Wulin as a 6th rank at the very least. On the final day, Zhenhua called Tang Wulin to his office. Wulin. Uncle Master, Tang Wulin said respectfully. He had learned much in the past 10 days. As a divine blacksmith, Zhenhua's philosophies and teaching methods differed greatly from Mu Chen and Feng Wuyu. He was especially keen on researching new techniques, and had generously taught Tang Wulin as many as time permitted. A prodigy of Tang Wulin's caliber was worthy of inheriting his techniques. The boy possessed the potential to understand metal on a level far deeper than even him. You've done well as a blacksmith, Zhenhua said. You've already reached the peak of what you can achieve with your current cultivation level and are ready to learn how to forge 3 metal alloys and resume your spirit refining practice now. Since your blood essence is so potent, I estimate you'll firmly cement yourself in the 6th rank once you gain your 4th soul ring. When the time comes, I'll personally forge your 6th rank badge. Yes. Thank you, Uncle Master. Your cultivation level is restricting you as a blacksmith right now. However, your soul power foundation is firm. The Tangsek's mysterious heaven method is indeed an excellent method, but your martial soul is weak and grows slowly. Fortunately, you're still young. Since you've chosen the path of cultivation, I will support you as much as possible. Just remember this, in order to become a divine blacksmith, you must become a titled Douluo. Even if your blood essence grows stronger, it won't be a substitute for the power of a titled Douluo, and you will never gain the enlightenment necessary to cross the threshold of a divine blacksmith. Heaven refining is to understand the mysteries of the universe. Only titled Douluos can do that. That's why when you get back to Shrek Academy, focus on cultivating your soul power. Since your martial soul is blue silver brass, I suggest you find a place rich in the natural energies of the world to cultivate in. You'll grow much faster in such an environment. Yes. Zhen Hua took out 2 boxes from his storage ring and handed them to Tang Wulin. One was purple and the other yellow, both about a foot long and wide. Here are the 2 spirit items you wanted. Be careful when you use them. They're very potent. Well, with your strength, you shouldn't have any problems. Zhen Hua had spent 10 days teaching Tang Wulin. He had come to understand that the boy was tough, strong enough to rival an adult soul master already. Tang Wulin stored the 2 boxes into his storage ring. Excitement stirred within him. As soon as he got back to Shrek Academy and bought the remaining 2 spirit items from the Tang sect, he could break the 4th seal. I was planning on sending you back myself, but something important came up, so I can't do that anymore. Instead, I've arranged an escort for you. They'll take you back to Shrek. Thank you, Uncle Master. I've already troubled you enough, Tang Wulin said with heartfelt sincerity. Zhen Hua rubbed Tang Wulin's head. All right, enough of that. If you have any blacksmithing questions, just give me a call. Yes. The person Zhen Hua had arranged to escort Tang Wulin back to Shrek City was the Black Raid Mecha pilot and captain of Heaven Dou City's 1st Mecha Regiment, Luan. With his strength and his black mecha, he could even keep a titled Douluo occupied for a while. Tang Wulin had learned the basics of mecha piloting at Shrek Academy, but it was his first time being inside a Black Raid Mecha. All mecha cockpits had enough space to accommodate 2 pilots, although only one operated the mecha at a time usually. The second pilot only came into play when they engaged in long-distance combat. Typically, the higher the grade of the mecha, the smaller it was. The standard issue yellow grade mechas stood over 12 meters tall, while the purple grade were around 10 meters. Black grade mechas were around 8. Red grade mechas were supposedly no more than 6 meters tall. In contrast to mechas, battle armor fit snugly to its user without any excess bulk. Once in the cockpit, Tang Wulin looked around curiously. Luan had a similar look in his eyes, but his gaze was focused solely on Tang Wulin. This kid's already saved 2 trains from terrorist attacks. He saved hundreds of lives and he's from Shrek. His future is limitless. Chapter 478, Tang Wulin's plan. Although Shrek Academy had asked Heaven Dou City to keep quiet about Tang Wulin's heroic deeds, Mo still granted him the title of Honored Citizen, and along with it, a badge. With that badge, Tang Wulin could buy anything in Heaven Dou City with a 20% discount, auction house included. The title of Honored Citizen was the highest honor that could be awarded in Heaven Dou City. It was non-hereditary, given only to the most outstanding of people. Even as the city's administrator, Mo had to apply in order to grant 2 of them, one for Tang Wulin, and the other for his daughter. Both deserved it. Uncle Lu, isn't it hard to operate the mecha in such a cramped space? Tang Wulin asked, his eyes shining with curiosity as he looked around. A typical mecha contained a human-shaped groove for the pilot within the center of the cockpit, located at its belly region. Here, the pilot controlled the mecha's every movement, mecha operation relying mainly on the pilot's own movements, supplemented by their thoughts. Due to the method of operation, strong bodies was a must for pilots. Partial control of the mecha could be given over to the mecha's operating system during combat, but high-grade mechas had minimal such programs and operation relied mainly on the pilot. Luan explained some of the unique traits of his cherished mecha, one of the few black raids on the continent. Black raids had astronomical production costs. Furthermore, since the Federation only supplied the circuit cores, the rest of the materials and labor had to be provided by the pilot, but the mecha belonged solely to the pilot who put forth the resources to produce it. As long as they earned enough achievements, they would be able to take their mecha with them whenever they chose to leave the military. The circumstances were similar for purple grade mechas. Lower grade mechas, while built upon mass-produced chassis, were customized by their pilots. As such, mecha pilots treated their mecha as their second life, an extension of themselves. Both strength and money were needed to become a mecha pilot. If the pilot didn't come from a wealthy clan, then they would have to earn the money necessary to advance, be it via their salary, bonuses, or sponsorships. During his lecture, Luan touched upon all sorts of troubles and issues faced by mecha pilots. In the end, however, they all revolved around one thing: the metals necessary to build and upgrade mechas were expensive. Ugh. I think you get it by now, but being a mecha pilot isn't as glamorous as it seems. It might be a prestigious job, but life grows harder by the day. Pilots can never stop working hard, competing in competitions for the prize money, and working for bonuses if they want to have a mecha they can truly call their own. Really, the Federation's treatment of us high-level pilots is inhuman. We don't have any time to think about anything but making money and growing stronger. Luan sighed, shaking his head. Still, I have to say I'm doing pretty well for myself actually. My mecha is a solid black grade, so I'm just focusing on upgrading all of its parts with spirit-refined metal. I think I'll be able to accomplish that in my lifetime. Wow. It's tough being a mecha pilot, Tang Wulin said. Luan let out another long sigh. Yeah. You still need to temper the iron after forging it. Anyone can become a mecha pilot as long as they're strong enough for the training. But a good one? That's a different story. It's hard to advance from there, so that's where the real value of pilots emerges. Tang Wulin's heart thumped, an idea forming in his mind. Uncle Lu, do pilots buy their metals directly from the Blacksmiths Association? Luan nodded. That's right. We generally make requests for what we want, then pay the price. It's pretty straightforward and the Blacksmiths Association fees aren't too bad, but things get troublesome when it comes to spirit-refined metal. There aren't enough blacksmiths capable of spirit refining. The demand far outstrips the supply, so the price is sky-high to match. And even with money, a blacksmith still needs to take on the request. With the low odds of success for spirit refining, they're cautious when it comes to taking on requests, and we clients have to bear the burdens of failure for them. It's just a tough situation all around. Huh. So it's like that, Tang Wulin murmured. The metals required by mechas were lower quality than those of battle armors, but their demand far outstrips the supply. His eyes flashed with a calculating glint. A golden opportunity. Uncle Lu, I'm a member of Shrek Academy's Blacksmiths Association. If you need some metals forged in the future, feel free to come find me. Our prices over there might be a bit cheaper, and we'll definitely finish on time. Tang Wulin beamed. Tang Wulin had no intentions of scamming Luan. Rather, he wanted to tap into the market of mecha pilots. After all, he could undercut the market as much as he wanted, but he needed access to the buyers to actually move his products. There was no need to conduct business under the table anyway. During the 10 days he spent with Zhen Hua, Tang Wulin learned just how costly it was for the high levels of blacksmithing. This translated into battle armors being expensive to make as well. With the growing speed of Tang Wulin's seal breaks, he would need more and more money to keep up with the rarer and rarer spirit items needed. Even if his uncle master treated him well, he couldn't expect the man to buy him items with astronomical prices. In the end, it all came down to making more money. Sounds great. Luan said immediately, his eyes shining. Tang Wulin had taken care not to explicitly reveal who would be taking on the requests, namely, him. He was aware how hard it was to trust a young blacksmith, especially one who declared himself a genius. On the other hand, Shrek Academy's name demanded trust and was very effective for his purpose. Nearly an hour later, they finally arrived at the outskirts of Shrek City. As a mecha pilot from Heaven Dou City, Luan didn't have permission to enter Shrek City with his mecha. After exchanging numbers, Luan flew off in his mecha, leaving a streak of flame in the sky. Tang Wulin hailed a taxi for the local Tang sect headquarters. He wanted to get the remaining 2 spirit items as soon as possible, and return to campus afterward. Fraught with danger and challenge his trip to Heaven Dou City had been, Tang Wulin was quick to remember he had gained more than his troubles. The path ahead now sprawled neat and clear before him. With his newly secured honored citizen discount, he could purchase things cheaply from Heaven Dou City, forge items for himself and his friends, and sell the rest. A grin slid its way across his lips. The fact that he had secured Luan as a potential buyer brought all sorts of tickling in his belly. And perhaps best of all, he could take advantage of the discount to acquire any spirit items he needed in the future. His uncle master backing him, and the title of honored citizen attaching to his chest like a badge. He was sure to get the best price. It would all result in a positive feedback loop. Of course, Tang Wulin still needed to earn contribution points with both the Tang sect and Shrek Academy. He decided to sell any spirit alloys with a less than 80% harmony rate, and with this plan, his bank account would continue to grow. Chapter 479, the 4 spirit items. Upon obtaining his 2 remaining spirit items, Tang Wulin skipped merrily to his dorm, stopping by a restaurant to buy lunch on the way. The campus dining hall closed as it was. By the time he returned, the sun had just reached the middle of the sky. His agenda was to break the next seal immediately to empower his blood essence, then visit Chuoshi for guidance. With that in mind, he made his way to Yuan Yui's room and knocked on her door. Come in. Tang Wulin did, catching the strangely domestic side of Yuan Yui in the middle of cleaning. She was lightly dressed in a tank top and short skirt to fight off the sweltering summer heat, bent over with a washcloth, eyes exposed. Tang Wulin felt his face catch fire, averting his eyes and stopping in place. Shouldn't you be a bit more cautious? Yuan Yui didn't bother looking up. Why should I? It's not like you like girls, huh? Tang Wuling could hardly utter a word. I don't like girls. Finally finished cleaning, Yuan and Yui rose from her bent position. You just got back from your trip to Heaven Dou City, right? Everything go well? She was quick to change the subject. The image of Tang Wuling and Yui's heinous clandestine affair was still seared into her mind, the most awkward brand. It gave her goosebumps just thinking about it, but she wasn't one to judge, the type to let others live their lives as they saw fit. Tang Wuling cracked a bitter smile. It went well. I nearly died, but that's about it. Huh? What happened? Expression slightly hardening, Tang Wuling recounted the tale of his brush with death on the train. An evil soulmaster. Yuan and Yui's eyes went wide and she clenched her hands into tight fists. What's with you? Tang Wuling asked. She shook her head, her complexion pale. It's nothing. Just remembered something from the past. Anyway, I'm surprised you managed to survive that. Actually, I have no idea what happened at the end or how I survived. I fell unconscious at the last minute, and when I woke up, my Uncle Master had already rescued me. He told me he found me unconscious, so he doesn't know what happened either. He brought a hand to his lips. Maybe the evil soul master thought I was dead and left, or he sensed my Uncle Master coming and didn't have enough time to finish me off. I have no clue. A pause. Eventually, Yuan and Yui spoke. I don't think either of those things happened, but I can't think of any other explanations either. Were you injured? I'm fine. Fit as a dragon, Tang Wuling said, flexing his biceps with a sunny smile. I forgot how tough you are. Yuan and Yui smiled wryly, remembering his perseverance in their last battle, his refusal to give up, like a cockroach. Yuan, can I ask a favor of you? What? I'm about to make a breakthrough and I want to go into seclusion for a few days. If you don't have anything to do off campus, could you help protect me during it? There shouldn't be anyone passing by, but still, all you'll have to do is make sure no one bothers me for a few days, Tang Wuling said. How many days will it take? Yuan and Yui asked. I'm not sure, but I think at least 3, at most 7. With the fourth seal already weakened and his body stronger than ever, Tang Wuling was confident it wouldn't take too long. She shrugged. Okay, call me when you're ready. Great. I'll pay you back with a piece of spirit alloy after. Her eyes shone. Those were your words. Remember that. You can't back out. I want one with a harmony rate over 90%. A tight smile formed on Tang Wuling's lips. Are you after my life? 90% is way too much and will take too long. Let's make it 80% and we'll have a deal. Shouldn't take too long to forge one. Deal. Yuan and Yui got what she had wanted, pitching higher than necessary. The odds of success for a 90% harmony rate were too low after all. Even if Tang Wuling had agreed, no one knew how long it would take. After a moment of thought, Tang Wuling said, I need to prepare some things first. I'll be ready in about 2 hours. With no proper way to store his 4 spirit items, he didn't want to delay any further. It was better to break the seal while the potency of the items was at its peak. Once he returned to his room, Tang Wuling shut the curtains, then got on his bed to meditate. This was his 4th time breaking a seal. He had been fully prepared for the first 2. Abruptly broke the 3rd. There wasn't a trace of anxiety in his heart for the 4th. Rather, he eagerly looked forward to what he would gain. He wanted to experience the rush of power into his veins and the might of his 2nd blood essence soul ring. The first golden soul ring granted him the golden dragon body skill, providing a massive boost in strength and combat power. He could only imagine what the 2nd would grant him. Tang Wuling hoped that the next skill he gained would be a long-range attack skill. No matter how he looked at it, ranged attacks were definitely his weakness right now, completely unbalanced with his close combat ability. As Tang Wuling mulled over his thoughts, he brought out 4 boxes from his storage ring and placed them on his desk. 1 box was made of wood, 2 of jade, and 1 of metal. He opened the wooden one first. An intense aroma immediately struck him. Within sat a brilliant flower with over 100 golden petals. Each petal was covered in fuzz. The entire flower coiled up to fit in the box. A single sniff got his blood essence boiling. The flower was a 1,000-year mystic heaven chrysanthemum, a rare spirit medicine that strengthened a person's limbs. Even at the 1,000-year level, it was extremely rare. Tang Wuling opened the next box, a small one made of yellow jade. Inside was a sepia lump. It was ugly compared to the chrysanthemum, but an air of power swirled around it. Its aroma thick and heavy. It was a 1,000-year pine spirit mushroom, also known as the scarlet spirit mushroom. It had a gentle character and mellow energies that nourished one's internal organs. While not the best spirit mushroom around, there was no denying it had the most mild character, able to tame the wildest of spirit medicines when ingested together, allowing the user to absorb the energies easily. And the mushroom fell slightly short of the chrysanthemum in value, an almost insignificant difference. Next was a green jade box. Tang Wuling slowly lifted the lid, sighing as he breathed in a bright fragrance, life and vitality incarnate. A string of small fruits sat inside the box, about 40 of them altogether. They were all the size of a bean, a shade of lush green jade. In truth, the box had originally been pure white, dyed the fruit's color after holding it for some time. Simply breathing the air from the box invigorated him. A 1,000-year life fruit. Its name stemmed from its tenacious will to live. The fruit growing only in the most barren of lands, praised as the greatest treasure of the deserts. If anyone lost their way there, they would be saved as long as they found this fruit. A single berry was enough to sustain a person for 10 days. A truly magical fruit. Its existence in such barren terrain, one of the many mysteries of the world. Tang Wuling had purchased it from the Tang sect. It had cost quite a large sum of contribution points. Old Tang had reminded him several times to get one with at least 30 berries. He went above and beyond that, getting his hands on a life fruit with 40. It was even more valuable than the mystic heaven chrysanthemum. He moved on to the final box. The box was made of a silver metal, completely sealing any fragrance that lay within. He pressed a button to unlock it, the lid opening up in one fluid motion. A black object with a metallic luster sat at the base, and upon closer inspection, a pattern of 11 dark purple rings could faintly be made out on its surface. Chapter 480, the 4th seal. This was 1,000-year purple cloud wood, a wood with peculiar characteristics. It was harder than most metals, and was actually toxic. Ingesting it would cause metal poisoning. It only took a small amount to endanger an ordinary person's life. Fortunately, its hardness made it difficult to ingest. In spite of how dangerous purple cloud wood could be to normal people, for soul masters it was a wonderful treasure. By pouring soul power into it, a soul master could transform the wood's toxicity into an energy that could strengthen their body and increase their flexibility. This 1,000-year piece of purple cloud wood couldn't be found in ordinary markets. It was priceless. Tang Wuling couldn't help but sigh as he gazed at the 4 spirit items. He needed all of them just to break the 4th seal. The mere thought of what the future seals would require made him start to sweat a little. He had to make more money. Tang Wuling stood up from his desk and brought over a basin of water he prepared earlier. He placed the pine spirit mushroom in it first, letting it soak for 10 minutes. Next he put in the mystic heaven chrysanthemum. The water took on a weak golden hue the moment the chrysanthemum entered it. After another 10 minutes, a sepia color seeped from the mushroom and encroached upon the chrysanthemum's golden domain. Third was the purple cloud wood. The instant it touched the water, inky colors spread from it, giving the water a muddy quality. This was a secret recipe old Tang had told him about. Of the 4 spirit items, purple cloud wood was the cheapest. This was mainly due to its excessive hardness that made it difficult to use, as well as its strong toxicity. A single mistake could endanger the user's life, so few dared to use it. However, when combined with mystic heaven chrysanthemum, the situation became entirely different. This recipe took advantage of that. The chrysanthemum excited the wood, and their medicinal properties spread through the water, mixing together. The wood's toxicity faded away. It was now usable as medicine. The value of this recipe couldn't be measured. Purple cloud would only cost a 1/6 of the mystic heaven chrysanthemum accepted value, but if this recipe became widely known, the purple cloud wood's price would skyrocket. When the water finally grew calm and its color deepened into an impenetrable darkness, Tang Wuling took the 1,000-year life fruit out of the basin and ate it. The fruit wasn't tasty at all. It was painfully sour to the point that it made Tang Wuling's teeth ache. Even so, he endured the unpleasantness and ate every single one of the fruit's berries. As he did, life energy surged through him. Saliva welled up in his mouth, transforming the sourness to a burst of sweetness. He then swallowed his saliva, and the sweetness spread through him as well. An ethereal high filled his body, a sensation that he quickly became drunk on. He felt as if he were an ascetic that had reached enlightenment. Tang Wuling's skin took on a green glow as he finished eating the fruit. Oblivious of this, he picked up the basin and gulped down its contents. Ugh. It tastes gross. The murky liquid ran down Tang Wulin's throat, combining with the live fruit he had just eaten. A sharp bitterness joined the sweet and sour that pulled at his tongue. His brow furrowed, a frown of disgust warped his mouth, and a groan escaped him. But even so, he forced himself to drink. The thought of how much money this dark mixture was worth gave him every reason to keep drinking. He absolutely couldn't waste it. It was now that Tang Wulin's stomach showed its might. He withstood the harsh taste of the liquid, which waned as he drank, and all of it disappeared into his belly. It left his belly fuller than before, but that was it. He still had room for more. The remains of the 3 spirit items sat at the bottom of the basin. They hadn't completely dissolved into the water, but all 3 looked nothing like they had before. The mystic heaven chrysanthemum had transformed from a dazzling gold to a dull grey, its aroma completely absent. The purple cloud would now look like an ordinary chunk of wood. The purple rings gone from its surface. Although its spiritual energies were gone, the pine spirit mushroom had fared better than the others, simply turning from sepia to black. Tang Wulin was amazed by the recipe. It used the properties of the 3 spirit items, exploiting how they reacted to one another to draw out all of their energies and medical potency. Then Tang Wulin's stomach started to churn and ache. He rushed to his bed and began meditating. Only now would the breaking of the seal truly commence. The mystic heaven chrysanthemum and purple cloud would both possess powerful medicinal properties, and with their toxic edge having been dulled from being combined, their medical potency had grown exponentially. The inclusion of the pine spirit mushroom in the recipe, on the other hand, was meant to mellow out the other 2 spirit items further and nourish the user's organs. The live fruit was added to boost the user's life force. The 4 came together at a perfect fusion, minimizing risk and maximizing benefits. In spite of all of that, Tang Wulin was in intense pain. He could feel his stomach and the surrounding muscles spasming. He had to fight back the urge to vomit everything he just ingested. He couldn't afford to squander all the money he had spent on them. Spirit items worth millions of credits and points were in his belly. Tang Wulin's miserly nature easily overcame such an insignificant level of pain. He clenched his jaw and endured, urging his soul power to circulate within him, carrying the medicine along with it. The pain gradually transformed into a blazing heat. The green glow of Tang Wulin's skin became scarlet, as if he were a human lobster. The heat inside Tang Wulin grew hotter and hotter, rampaging through his body. All of his pores opened up, releasing a thick medicinal aroma. Outside of Tang Wulin's room, Yuan and Yui sat cross-legged, guarding the door. Her nose twitched, smelling the aroma. Astonishment colored her face. She couldn't believe how potent it was. A single whiff of it had relaxed her body. She straightened her back and continued to take in the medicinal aroma, breathing deeply through her nose. Back in the room, Tang Wulin's entire body felt like it was on fire. A faint golden glow rippled within him, through his veins, muscles, bones, and organs. He somehow knew that this golden light was the reason for his insane recovery ability. It was this recovery ability that had saved him numerous times now. It's time to break the 4th seal. Spurred on by his soul power, the medicinal energies assaulted the 4th seal. The seal shuddered, a boom rumbling within him. Tang Wulin's entire body trembled. He saw a golden light envelop his body and heard a draconic roar echo from deep within himself. He could feel everything inside of him being dyed a radiant gold. Before this, every time Tang Wulin broke a seal he had either been unconscious or had his eyes closed. This was his first time seeing the changes that occurred to his body when he broke a seal. He could feel the 4th seal splitting open, releasing a torrent of energy that dyed his entire body gold. This energy began fusing with his flesh, bones, and blood as it devoured the remaining medicinal energy to empower him further. The golden energy filled him, and he felt bloated, fit to burst. But his body, hungry, ravenously so, ate it all up. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.